Today we really touch into general hospitality business. Obviously tonight as a partner we have Hilton, so we'll be talking about all the different type of hotel, but where we will be looking into is the focused service hotel, which kind of a skinny guy that people don't look at, but they do a job very well. So later Hilton will kind of take us through this kind of products and explain what actually they do well. Now, there are a lot of good news into the hospitality industry. First of all, I like to share that I think the confidence of industry is back. So people feel it, that there is something to look into, that there is a good future for the hospitality in Vietnam. The main reason why is that is because international travelers, finally, they reached the level of 2019. So we can say that we fully recover in terms of demand. And one of the main reasons of this recovery is because Korean, they love to travel to Vietnam. They love Vietnam even more than Thailand itself. So if you look at, before it was just Da Nang for Korean, now you see all the different destinations going. If you look at Phu Quoc, for example, we have more flight to Seoul than Ho Chi Minh City. So this is a very potential market that we keep exploring, but a lot of other good news around. One of them is that what it was very scary for us before, which was the oversupply of hotels, it's always been scary in developer, seems over. So it's no longer as scary as it was before. Somehow we are getting through it. The demand is catching up, the hotels are getting filled. As a result, we start to see occupancy coming back to the previous level. 80, 100% in certain cases. Ho Chi Minh City is fully back pre-pandemic, but somehow we see a trend of occupancy coming. So I do have those good news, and not just me. A lot of developers are feeling those good news. So a lot of developers and owners of hotels that rely so much on the brand to perform, they're kind of happy. But something is also happening that will be interesting to talk today. A lot of management agreements were signed 10, 15 years ago for the first wave of development of Vietnam and are now coming to an end. So now is where developer will be able to renegotiate the management agreement. Together with this, a lot of developers, a lot of owners are ready to reposition their property. It's no longer 15 years ago market. They know that somehow they can try to get better. So we'll see much more renegotiation going and maybe a lot of rebranding going on. I'm sure you know a very recent news into the rebranding that I'll be talking about later today, but this is another big thing that we'll probably explore it today on changing brands and changing operator. We have a great show tonight for you. We'll cover all the different sectors. As I say, we'll start with four keynote speakers looking into market performance first with HoSkar, then we'll pass it to Chris and Maria to take us to the skidding guy that you saw before, and then we have Roy looking into another side of the focus service. You can build your focus service. What do you do with your F&B? How you convert into a destination restaurant or F&B? We'll touch it later, and then we'll end with great panel before everybody can join the HoSkar Night. Now, the HoSkar Night will be here a little bit, but then I'll see you all upstairs, level 39 and 44, the networking part of that. So thank you very much for now. I'll see you in a minute. I'll pass it to Nyung again. No music, Nyung, so you need to just kind of sing through it. And I'll pass it to the first presenter. I'll see you in a moment.
Thank you, Mauro, for the good vibe to the market and to the event today. So upcoming, we have a lady. Where are you? Buserin from HoSkar. So you will share with us on the very hot feature for the hospitality market, right?
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Thank you. Please give her a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Xin chào, right? So do I pronounce it well? So good evening, everyone. I'm Thai. I'm a 6 or quarter Vietnamese, but it's my first time in Vietnam, so very excited. And so the reason why I'm here, apart, trying to reconnect with my long-lost family and eat very nice Vietnamese food, especially the banh mi, is actually to update you on some market trends. So as Mauro was introducing, yes, HoSkar. So for those who don't know what we do in HoSkar, right, apart from traveling and getting to eat nice food, is actually we collect the P&L, the profit and loss data from hotels, and then the next few slides that you're going to see is a lot of graphs and numbers are actually the actual data that we get from these hotels, right? So when I say profit and loss, that's the revenues, the costs of each department, and of course overall performance until the GOP line, and then we get to analyze that by market or location, and then that allows users or hoteliers or owners or developers or even banks or anyone who wants to have an understanding of the profitability levels in the market in terms of hotels. And that's why I'm here today. So we're starting the analysis on Vietnam, and here you have a benchmark or comparison between different countries in Southeast Asia, right? So of course you have that Singapore line, which is doing, well, seasonal like everyone, but a bit above other markets, and we know that Singapore is quite dynamic also in terms of price, which are a bit higher than anywhere else. In Asia, occupancy, a lot of events happening, so that's Singapore. But then you see Vietnam, which is in dotted line, in red here, red or orange here, more or less in line with the rest of Southeast Asia, and right behind Thailand. Of course, depends on the month, depends on the seasons here. But also, I think the most interesting thing is to see the growth here, right? Q4 2022, where the growth, right, has really climbed. So it had caught up on the rest of the region and on many countries of Southeast Asia. So in terms of the same time, year to date, so January to May, January to May this year versus same time last year, you saw as well in terms of growth, right? So the graph shows like a seasonal month-to-month GOP, gross operating profit. But then in terms of growth, the growth of Vietnam is higher than the rest of the market. So what you see throughout the slides, you will see Southeast Asia. So that's the rest of the region without Vietnam, right? So that means that's the average performance from Thailand, Singapore, and others. And Vietnam, in terms of growth, is higher than the rest of the region. So that's the key takeaway, I think, from today. And back to what Mauro was saying, is that the growth and the potential of the market is really here. Looking at growth, right? So now what you see on this graph is the variance versus same time last year. So everything which is above the line, which is above zero, means that it's doing better than last year, right? So you have different countries again, and then again you see that Vietnam is growing more or less faster than the other regions, right? Even though it's a bit declining, but that's the case with most countries because of probably the lower season as well. But you see the growth is kind of faster, especially if you look at another type of graph that we usually do, which is the MAT graph, the moving annual total. So that will show like a more linear and smooth growth. And you would see that Vietnam is above the rest of the region. In terms of revenues, right? So we talk about growth, we talk about healthy trends of growth. So where is that coming from, right? So as you know, the profit would come from two main factors: the revenues that we try to optimize and the costs that we try to not always save, but also optimize and manage, right? So you see here we start with the revenues. Of course, most of the revenues are driven by rooms, right? So this is what you see as RevPAR, revenue per available room, and more precisely, net RevPAR, right? So the net RevPAR is actually your real RevPAR. So once you deduct your cost of sale, so what we call cost of sale is, I'm not going to do a lot of finance today. I know we're here to have fun, but just to explain, it's actually when you deduct, most of it is the OTA, online travel agents, right? So a lot of costs directly, booking costs basically directly involved. Then you have your net RevPAR. So you see how it's growing versus same time last year, so above last year, right? But F&B and C&B, which is conference and banqueting, you still see it's not constantly fully back, right? Above last year, but also it's very unstable here, right? So of course, and that's the nature of the group. So in most markets where, of course, you cannot have groups every day or every week, right? So it's quite challenging to monitor that, but you still have a growth here, which is less stable than rooms, for instance. And you see towards the end of the graph, it's more or less declining again. If you look at the occupancy here, so Vietnam is in orange, you see that decline, right? So especially compared to the rest of the region. So let's try to get a bit deeper into the analysis in terms of demand, right? So you have here the occupancy and the ADR, average daily rate, per key areas of Vietnam. And we see that Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, which is not a surprise here, is doing quite well. And the occupancy, we're looking at, this is 12-month rolling. So doing a bit better than the rest of the region, and also in terms of ADR, right? And then you have maybe Phu Quoc or other destinations which are a bit more more niche, if I may say. I've never been there, but I wish. But also the ADR is also not too bad because a lot of luxury hotels do. Now, if you look at the quick table here, right? So you see the RevPAR here again, we're talking about growth, which is really good. So higher again than the rest of the region, with 24% higher than last year, right? And even though the ADR is not as high in terms of growth as the region, but because occupancy is higher, so it was about 56%, 56% last year, and now it's about 66 or almost 70, right? So the occupancy is growing faster here again. On demand, right? So we looked into the profit levels, we look into where that is coming from in terms of revenues, occupancy, ADR, and now we're digging deeper into where that occupancy and ADR is coming from, right? So you have different market mix, right? So we start with the rooms. In terms of, as a percentage of the room's revenue, right? So this is mainly the segmentation, and well, you have some terms here, maybe you call them differently, but basically it's the retail packages, that's your individual bookings, right? So everything which is less than 10 rooms, whether it's online or direct, but now most of the time it would be online. So that's mainly where most of the room revenues would be coming from in the world, actually, especially in Asia. But then you see that if compared to the rest of the region, Vietnam has a slightly smaller contribution coming that revenue for the rooms revenue. However, if you look at other segments, this is where Vietnam can really optimize better, especially on the groups, right? So both for corporate groups and for leisure groups as well. Now for F&B, and this is where it gets interesting. So it's the same as the rooms, right? So business mix means how much of your F&B revenue is coming from, whether it's outlets, so restaurants or bars, catering, C&B, so your catering, your event space, or others, right? So especially others here that we tend to forget. But some hotels, especially the luxury ones, have actually opportunities for F&B revenues from the non-F&B items, right? So selling cigars, cigarettes in bar, whiskey bar, for example, that's another source of revenue. But then the interesting part for me was to see that the Vietnam here, right, the contribution of only 20%, or 20 is not bad, but it's lower than the rest of the region coming from catering, while for the rooms, we were optimizing more, right? So this could mean that the groups, like conference and banqueting, that are coming in the hotels after the conference might not stay or fully optimize the F&B facilities in the hotel, right? And it's exactly the same in Thailand. So they come for a meeting and then they go to have dinner outside, right? So this is maybe an area to look at and trying to optimize in the future. The same analysis here, so we're looking at percentage of the revenues, but in this case, in terms of margins, right? So we saw how much revenue is coming from different segments, and now we're trying to see how much revenue or profit is left, right, after the deduction. So you have rooms here, so you have the profit margin, which is not bad at all, right? So 78 or almost 79, so higher than the region, again here, and this is 12 months rolling, and this is good, right? So as you know, if it's above 80 or 80 and above as a profit, room profit margin is really good, and for F&B, if it's 40, it would be considered really good as well. And here, especially F&B, Vietnam is doing better than the region, and you see most of the reason is because the cost is also lower. I'm nearly there, so I'm having a quick look here at the other costs because we talk about rooms and F&B. So this is the variance, just to see how the costs are evolving, or the trends, right? So you see for Vietnam, even though we saw that most of the costs were kept below the region, but doesn't mean it's been optimized or managed throughout, right? So if you see the variance, this is the variance, you still have some costs, especially sales and marketing, A&G, and the booking costs. So here we go with the commissions and the channel costs, which are getting really higher, right? So booking cost is 42%, which is getting higher than the region, right? So while the revenue is getting higher, but the cost as well, right? And higher cost is not always a bad thing, as long as you make sure that revenues are optimized and then the profit is optimized, right? So it impacts the margins, and this is my final slide on a few seconds left. So you see here again into different market, but then you have the margins, the GOP overall of the hotel, the rooms, and the F&Bs. And here again you have Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, which are doing slightly better than others. Quick one on the asset class. I think the key point we can really take away here is if we look at Vietnam, so we're talking about the margin, right? So the profit margin which is left after your cost deduction. In Vietnam, it seems that most of the margin is optimized from luxury, right? If you compare with the neighbor countries, you see that the highest margins, and this is year to date, is mainly the select service because of the lower cost margins, right? And then the slight difference here, back on Vietnam, that you see 34.1 and 34.8 from full and select service is again coming from the cost, because select service has lower cost of sale. So we have Christian who's going to talk a little bit more about that now. But overall, as a really key takeaway is to remember that growth again, because you see the GOP is higher in terms of growth than the region, right? So before, so last year we meaning Vietnam, was below rest of the region, and now it's higher year to date. So a lot of opportunities, and up to us to understand the market through the numbers, the different segments, a different level of cost, and then which segment or asset class are having more potential here. Thank you. I'll pass it on to the next presentation. Thank you so much.
To analyze the skinny guy. So Christian and Maria.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to the Hilton Saigon. We've been in Vietnam now for 25 years, and this year is really an exciting year because it marks our debut in this wonderful city. So thank you. I'd like to thank our chairman and his family for trusting us and giving us such a great property. We hope you all enjoy it this evening. Before we begin, these events with Mauro are always a lot of fun. So Maria and I spent the last 3 weeks working on a presentation only for Mauro to tell us this morning that he didn't like it. I think it's the Italian accent. We always, get confused. And so we had to redo it all afternoon. So let's see. What he wanted us to talk about today was actually, he said, tell us what you're seeing. Tell us how you're seeing the environment from Hilton's perspective, from where you stand. So, what are we seeing, Maria?
That is a loaded question. I think we are especially in Vietnam, but also if you look at other parts of Southeast Asia, the common direction where you see a lot of travelers who, one, the base of travelers is growing. You have this burgeoning middle class that has not traveled that much before, has this massive appetite to travel, but they're looking for value. They are very conscious of where they're spending their money, and they're very conscious of the product that they're getting with their money. I think that's what we're seeing.
Exactly. And I think to Maria's point, it's about value. It's not necessarily only about price. So who are these people? As Maria mentioned, it's this emerging middle class. So in Asia Pacific, specifically here in Vietnam, we're sitting in the middle of 60% of the world's population that is only a medium haul or less flight away from the great country of Vietnam. At the same time, we've also seen this incredible emergence of the domestic Vietnamese traveler over the past few years. And these travelers, similar to their regional peers, are also seeking value. They have a heightened awareness of value and are prioritizing purposeful purchases. What does this translate into when we look at hotels? Well, we're seeing an increasing demand in the mid-market segment. And I think mid-market is what we're going to be talking about for most of the rest of the session today and afterwards with the panelists. So, why are mid-market hotels interesting for you as owners? Well, we feel, based on what we mentioned before, there's going to be stronger market demand for this type of product. As we just saw from the HotStats presentation, there are operational efficiencies that should drive higher GOPs and translate into higher return potential. There's also greater scalability and flexibility in terms of location where these can be deployed. They're also resilient in economic downturns. Now, Mauro said, yeah, nice, interesting. I want case study. So let's look at some case studies. Hilton as an upper upscale hotel product versus two examples from our mid-market tiered products. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go line by line. So typically a Hilton, in order to make it work, in order to make it efficient, we need higher key counts. Whereas mid-market hotels, we can run with smaller key counts. At the same time, if we look at the GFA per key, the GFA per key goes down quite drastically. Not only are the room sizes smaller, as we can see, but we also have less meeting space and less F&B. So all of this translates to a much more efficient product on a GFA per key basis. As mentioned before, you can deploy mid-market hotels in much greater sort of variety of destinations than you can make an upper upscale product work. So this again makes it easier. We all know the story right now with getting permits in primary cities in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, how difficult it is and so on. But with this type of product, you can go to tertiary cities. You can go out to the provinces. You can go and deploy product in proximity of the industrial parks.
And just to add on there, I know in the past, in 10, 15 years, that international operators have been active in the market. The focus a lot of times has been in that full service space. You want all of the services and the amenities that you can get with the world-class service that the international operators can provide. But as we can see in terms of the cost of development that you see, this is not something that we can scale and expand as owners into any markets other than key primary cities in Vietnam. But as you see, with the population growth and where the economy is going, there's so much more potential to appeal to different destinations, different audiences, but you need a slightly different product to be able to cater to those people and have a cost of construction that will have an ROI for you. And so there, within that mid-market space, you have a few tiered products. If you go back to the HotStats presentation that was presented earlier, you can also see that Vietnam does sit in this presence within Southeast Asia, where the select service or the mid-market segment is not as profitable as a standalone in terms of GOP as you would like it to be, and as it is in a lot of other parts of the world. So as an owner, how do you then create value? And this is also where we talk about that scaling capability and how you, as you grow your business in that segment, you can finally start to see that return by having that economies of scale in that segment.
And two interesting points about scalability is coming back to construction costs. We'll talk about prototypical design and franchising. What is this franchising? We're not, many of the big operators like ourselves, we're not ready to franchise in the full service and luxury spaces, but we are now open to franchising in the mid-market space because a lot of owners have already learned the basics. Check in, check out, housekeeping, breakfast. It's not that difficult. It works well. You can learn it. You can exceed and excel in hiring in local markets, in training in local markets, in retaining staff in local markets, in these secondary, tertiary locations. Maria will talk a little bit about the franchising piece in a moment. It's not just about saving costs. It's about creating scalability through efficiencies. Before we get into that, though, just quickly on prototypes. So a big saving. It's not only about saving square meters. It's not only about bringing that GFA per key down. It's about prototypical design. So basically, the time and money that you would typically spend on hiring consultants and architects and interior designers to create a unique and differentiated product, we've done all that work for you. We've spent the money, we've done the homework, we have everything down to a kit of parts. So from loose furniture to FF&E, you can choose to just simply contact the suppliers that we've already worked with, created these products for you. Or if you say, I can do it better, we have the designs, we have the specifications, you can go out and get it on your own. This is actually an example of our most recent Hilton Garden Inn prototype that we've created for Southeast Asia, specifically for the Southeast Asian market. And basically, everything from CAD drawings that can be adjusted based on your building type to loose furniture specifications, your FF&E, everything. You get everything from us. Can you customize it? Yes. You have 4 different themes. Now, we always get the question, yeah, but I want to do my own and so on. So the answer is 80% should remain prototypical. About 20% you can still add your own touch. Mainly, you'll see that happening in the public areas and less so in the rooms. Maria, what is this franchising thing that everyone is talking to us about more and more?
So franchise is definitely the hot topic that a lot of owners come to us these days. And we tend to just throw around the word loosely as another business model that's hot and sexy at the moment to pursue. But we do want to distill down to, I guess, a very high level what exactly it means to franchise. So first, everyone in this room, I presume, is aware of what the managed model is. It's when a Marriott, a Hilton, a Hyatt comes in and they run the hotel for you. There's a corporate overhead that oversees the operations and the overall operational kind of, I guess, the corporate side of the operating company. So you're used to that. So what's the difference when you go over to the franchise model? The franchise model is similar to the managed. You have the right to use the brand. You have your Hilton branded hotel. Let's say you have a Hilton Garden Inn. On the franchise side, you also have the right to use the Hilton Garden Inn in your franchising. But the difference is the people inside the hotel, the ones that are running the business, those are your guys, and you have a team that is operating the hotel yourselves. Anyone that you have above property that is supporting, like HR, finance, whoever you have above property supporting the operations on the ground, these are also your guys, not the Hiltons or the Hyatts or the Marriotts. And then in terms of the support that you can get, that really depends in terms of what you can get from us, the franchisor. That really depends per company that you work with. Hilton offers a fair degree of support, but
we're offer the most, right? We're number
we
one?
We offer the most degree of support compared to other operators. But the point being that, again, we are there to help you along the way, sharing our best practices, but it's really up to the franchisee to run the business on a day-to-day.
And what do they need to do that?
Yes. So this will be, again, a very simplified, high-level understanding of what you as a potential franchise owner need to know about whether you're ready to run a hotel yourself. So the key functions of a hotel: sales and marketing, revenue management, HR, accounting, food and beverage. These are all things that, again, you as a potential operator need to know how to do yourselves. It's not so much whether, you have a hotel that already has those teams, I can just keep it running that way even if I've never operated a hotel myself. It's actually not so simple as that, because you do need to have the know-how and the education about how to keep that business running yourselves, making sure that above the property you have the support that you need to keep that business running in a healthy way. And there's quite a bit of work to be done. We are not just in business having an easy life, not knowing what we're doing. We have the expertise for a reason, but you as a franchise owner may have that expertise as well, in which case I think franchisors are very happy to work with you for franchise projects.
Very exciting. I wonder in 5 years' time how many franchisees are actually going to be sitting in this same group, and how many mid-market owners, how many full-service owners are going to go down the mid-market road, or up the mid-market road, should I say?
Well, the good thing is that there's a lot of sophistication that's coming into the market, a lot of locally run hotels that are being run very well, and a lot of the requests that we do get are, look, we have fantastic hotels, we've been running them ourselves for quite some time now, but we would like to plug into your system and get that benefit of the distribution and that access to the Hilton engine. I mean, that's something that we get a lot, and I think that's exactly where we as operators want to be in that space. You guys have the sophistication and the education to run the hotels yourselves, and we're here to give you that extra boost in that distribution.
Okay, I think Mauro tells us it's time to get off.
All right.
No, very
back
excited.
to
Actually,
Mauro.
it's now, but like a few years ago, 5 years ago, I would have called you for a franchise. I will have hang the phone on me.
Every
It's
time
Mauro
I say,
that.
Mauro, you know the
What
answer.
changed? Why now you guys are talking about franchise? Is the market more mature, owner more mature? Why now?
I think it's just what Maria just said, the maturity of the market.
Exactly. I think 10 years ago, you would have asked us, even 5 years ago, and we wouldn't have seen these operators on the ground that are doing their own thing and doing it well. But we do see that more. And the rest of Southeast Asia, we do see as advancing at the same pace. So I think now is the time.
So if the Focus Service Hotel was the skinny guy, the franchise is the next level, then we need to strip off even the clothes.
He's the marathon runner.
That's the one. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You want to close something else, or?
No, thank you again, Mauro and his whole team for organizing these events. They're always great. Look forward to having fun at the drinks this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for co-hosting the event with us, and I am sure that our owner gonna have a lot of questions for you guys later on. Chris, Marina, and also Lam is here to answer all of your questions until the night. So they will be here until midnight. Upcoming presentation, Rohit, you will share with us a lot of interesting insight on FB concept, right?
Yeah, well, I saw those numbers from HotStats. I hope I can pull them up.
It's your stage.
Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Rohit Sachdev. I'm the CEO and founder of Soho Hospitality, and today I'm going to present you a case study of how we went from crisis to opportunity by crafting a winning hotel restaurant concept in Bangkok, Thailand. A little bit about Soho Hospitality. We are a restaurant group with 7 award-winning restaurant brands that are now expanding internationally. So we have an experience transformation agency where we create restaurant experiences all the way from...
Right. Sorry, 1 second. I don't think your mic is on. We can hear you, but I don't get your usual vibe from that. So I need your on, or I need my friend here to fix the problem. Start with that. Yeah, no, it's okay. Start with this, and then we'll try to fix it.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. You guys heard me, right? I've got a pretty loud voice. Yeah, okay. Just a little about Soho Hospitality. We are a restaurant group with 7 award-winning brands that are expanding internationally, and we also have an experience transformation agency where we curate compelling experiences for restaurants, bars, nightclubs, beach clubs, and food halls, and we work with all the major brands worldwide. So at the end of 2021, we were coming out of the pandemic, but Soho Hospitality was in a lot of trouble. We had great challenges that faced us. We had a number of aging F&B brands. These brands were about 6 to 7 years old, and we were really worried that the consumer affinity towards our brand may have evolved during the pandemic. We weren't sure if those would remain. We were also struggling with constrained cash flows. We were suffering with what we call financial indigestion. Revenues were going up, but it wasn't trickling down to the balance sheet. And our business was at a crossroads. So what I did, I assembled a task force with my HODs, and we started thinking about what we were going to do next. After a few weeks of deliberation, we said the best defense is offense, and in order to create additional revenues and drive yield to our balance sheet, we were going to create a new winning restaurant concept. The first thing we did as a team was we wanted to understand how the consumer behavior had evolved during the pandemic. And one thing that we realized is we had to focus on the Gen Zs. Gen Zs comprise 25% of the Asian Pacific population, and by 2030, their spending power would amount to about $12 trillion. So whether it be the TikTok culture or anything that related to Gen Z, we had to make sure that this concept would appeal to this demographic. The pandemic also redefined the definition of dining. dining during the pandemic meant third-party delivery, getting the restaurants delivering to you. So we realized and predicted that dining out would mean entertainment. In order to get people out of their pajamas, back into the restaurants, we needed to make sure that we had a restaurant that focused on the experiential components and experiential dining. The other thing that we realized was that food was not the most important thing anymore. Food was a given, it had to be good, but the experiential components took precedence. And the other thing we realized is that we didn't really understand pricing dynamics. Value is a great critical aspect of the pricing equation, and we knew that if we created a really, really compelling concept, we could increase our APC and increase our revenues through creating a really, really compelling concept. As we started going through the strategic exploration process, we wanted to look for concepts that would appeal to the Gen Z demographic. We wanted something that was going to be social. We wanted something that perhaps had gamification. We wanted to look at escapism. And of course, Instagrammable moments was something that we definitely wanted to have. We then looked at existing food and beverage models that were already in the market that appealed to this type of demographic. So we looked at teppanyaki. We also looked at Korean barbecue, and we explored concepts in Europe, such as supper clubs, where they start out as dinner destinations but turn into nightclubs. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that we could create a concept that would appeal to affluent Thais at a time in which there was still a lot of restrictions in terms of travel. As part of our discovery and research, we discovered a concept that did not exist in Bangkok, and that was the Rabatayaki concept. The Rabatayaki concept is a fireside dining concept that met all of our criteria. It's interactive with chefs grilling food in front of guests. It's unique, it's Instagrammable, and we thought it would really appeal to Gen Zs and affluent Thais as well. We also saw that a lot of Rabatayakis are super expensive. $200 to $300 average per covers, but in order to appeal to Gen Zs, we needed to democratize the Rabata dining experience. So we knew that the average per cover had to be between 80 and 100 US dollars. And then of course, we had to add the Soho hospitality twist. If you've been to any of our restaurants, you know we always turn restaurants into our own concepts. In terms of implementing the experience, the one thing we wanted to do was to make sure we created a unique storytelling and created all the experiential components around that story. I also have an experience by design philosophy where every experiential component is researched, planned, and executed with an excruciating amount of detail, whether it be interior design, branding, uniforms, tabletops, food, beverage, cocktail programming, and music. It is all created by design. Research has also shown that if you play the right kind of music, it increases dwell time and increase your revenues by almost up to 10%. And of course, in the areas where we did not do those things in-house, such as lighting design and uniform development, we worked with outside experts to help to complete the concept curation process. I'm a little bit crazy, so there is no chance for error. There's no chance for any arbitration. Everything is meticulously planned. So from brand collaterals to operational collaterals to marketing collaterals and then to uniforms, there is nothing left for arbitration. Location definitely matters, and we found a beautiful spot at the Skyview Hotel in Sukhumvit 24 in central Bangkok. It's right in front of M District, where there's M Quartier, M Sphere, as well as Emporium. There are about 2,000 hotels on that street, and it is a place that is frequented by affluent Thais and huge residential buildings in that area as well. And we really felt that this would be a perfect location to also attract affluent Thais. So after me going crazy with my teams and 6 months of concept development and 3 months of construction, we finally launched Yankee. Yankee actually means a Japanese high school dropout who joins a biker gang. That's the name of the restaurant. And of course, we needed to add our Soho storytelling. So the story goes that this restaurant was formerly run by an old family. It was an old izakaya, but it was a victim of the pandemic, and then was taken over by a bunch of Yankee biker gangs, and this is what they did to it. So we designed the restaurant has 2 floors. The bar area is inspired by dagashi bars in Japan. Dagashi bars in Japan are candy bars where you pay 500 yen to eat as much candy as you want, and then you pay for your alcohol. We also have candy machines. With the Yankee gangsters put all their posters, they put graffiti, and it's very vivid, colorful, and also, of course, Instagrammable. So this is some of the images of the restaurant on the ground floor. We also have manga comic books as well as part of the decoration. And then we had, in terms of our cocktails, we worked with a mixologist from Dubai to basically create Japanese inspired cocktails with Japanese ingredients as well as spirits. Going up to the second floor, the gangsters created their robatayaki counters. So we have 2 counters, 18 seats each. The grilling, there's food displayed around the counters, and almost 80% of the food are coming from the robatayaki chefs who grill right in front of you. So this is what the restaurant looks like. It's very creative, very bold, very, very vivid. And in terms of the music, we play 90s American hip hop. Food is served on a paddle and very Instagrammable. And the food concept is basically based on robatayaki, which is fireside grilling, kushiyaki, and yakitori. So 80% of the food is cooked right in front of you. That's a Japanese hand roll, that's a Wagyu A5 tataki, and that's a charcoal calamari that's made in the kitchen. But the best part of our experience is the entertainment dining. I worked with a Japanese Peruvian guy who trains Miss Universe contestants on how to walk and talk on the stage. He taught all of our employees on how to speak, sing, chant, yell, taught them drinking games in Japanese, and this is how we turned it into a gamification concepts. The guests are seated in teams at two counters representing opposing gangs, and they compete with a bell and scoreboard in the middle. So when you come to Yankee, you sit on one side and you want to have a little bit of fun. There's a scoreboard in the middle and a bell. You walk up to the bell, ring it, you buy a round of shots, and our staff come out and chant and yell and sing drinking songs, and you compete against the other group to see who wins. On certain nights, we charge about $70 per round of shots. The score has been 35-35. Now, I didn't know how they drank 70 shots in one evening. I'm still trying to figure that out, but guess what? That drives revenues and yield down to our balance sheet, and it's a lot of fun, and it's super Instagrammable. That's the scoreboard. That's them playing drinking games. Now the best part is, my father always comes to my restaurant and he says, this restaurant will be beautiful if it makes money. And let me tell you, this is a beautiful restaurant. We are scoring some of the highest net promoter scores out of all of our 7 restaurants. We scored 333 reviews in 1.5 years, 4.8 on Google, and below that is from our booking platform, 7 rooms, only 1.42 negative reviews in 1.5 years of doing business. We're doing about 20 to 30% EBITDA on a monthly basis, and I would be very, very interested to bring this concept to Vietnam. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and if you ever come to Bangkok, please give me a shout and we can have some fun at Yankee. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Stay there. Don't move. We'll prepare the chair, but you stay there. I got a few questions. So first of all, this is fantastic. Which other restaurant do you have there? What's your best known restaurant over there?
Thailand, you mean?
Yes.
I would say I couldn't tell you because it depends on the customer. But some of my highest net promoter scores are from my Indian restaurant Charcoal. But the ones that are my top revenue generating are above 11, my Peruvian Japanese rooftop.
So that's one of the best rooftop in Bangkok in Soy 11. And this one is on top of hotel.
Yeah,
service
it's on top.
apartment.
So, funny story, before revenue management came to play, my 2 restaurants, which are on 2 floors, and I've got 25 floors of rooms, the 2 restaurants on 2 floors made more revenue between 2014 and 2019 than 25 floors of rooms. That is a fact. After revenue management, they started making more money than us, but just a little bit more. But that really shows you the power of F&B. If you're in the right place, you could drive the right captive market, and the planets are aligned. We can help you drive yield to your balance sheet by creating beautiful places that make money.
And then the most famous one, which is Havana.
Yes, Havana Social, which
I don't know if you've ever been to Bangkok, but you've probably been to Havana Social. He's the owner of Havana Social. What's the secret there? Why so popular?
I think we always did things that people never dared to do. I opened an Indian restaurant with no curries. I was the first to open a Peruvian restaurant in Asia. And Havana, the storytelling is what makes it what it is. It's about celebrating 1940s Havana before the revolution, when Ernest Hemingway, Rita Hayworth, JFK, Havana was the Las Vegas of the Caribbean, and the showgirls were dazzling, the gambling was high stakes, and it was a great time before the revolution and Fidel Castro, turned off the music. So it's a celebration of that era, and it's the meticulous amount of planning and how crazy I am to make sure that experience is delivered by design. It's that attention to detail that drives the revenue in the end.
Thank you. Right. I have a lot of other questions, but I'll let you go. I'll ask you later, and I really would like to know later, what do you see about Vietnam? Would you see all of this possible in Vietnam? Actually, answer me now, elevator speech.
I see so much opportunity in this market. I'm actually worried about Thailand. I'm Thai, by the way. Our GDP is at less than 2%. The only thing we have left is hospitality. The country is suffering because of 14 years of struggle. And we have an aging population. And you come to Vietnam, and after the war, people were, making families, and you have got such a young population ready to go out and spend. And like I talked about, the Gen Zs who got huge amounts of spending power. That spending power is in this country. And I see, and I know the Prime Minister of Thailand, and he was saying to me the other day that, the GDP of Vietnam is going to be, past Thailand by 2030. And it's scary for Thailand, but I see a lot of opportunity. I want to do business in Vietnam. I keep on coming here. So please, let's do business together.
Thank you. Right. Let's talk about later. Thank you very much.
And for our last panel discussion, so let me invite on stage our panelists. Firstly, Ms. Jenny Miles from Hilton Group. Ms. Thule from Sovico Hospitality Group. Michael from Indochina Capital and Wings Hotels.
This guy, have a seat.
And Christopher from Logis Hospitality.
So thank you very much. We have another 30 minutes to go before everybody will be thirsty and start drinking. So we'll go through a few of the rush question here and just looking for the right answer, quick one. First, I'd like to everybody maybe introduce yourself briefly. Tell us what your business is in Vietnam and why you also have a bit of expertise into the mid-tier market and focus service. Let's start from the last one. Chris, please.
Yep. Hello. Hi. My name is Christopher. Hello. My name is Christopher Herr, CEO of Logis Hospitality. We're a fully integrated hospitality investment development management company. We have about 30 properties in our portfolio, 98% of which are here in Vietnam. As I noted, we're owners and managers. We own the Fusion Hotel and Resort brand. And as it relates to today's particular panel, we are owners, and we've created our own mid-scale brands. We've worked, and personally I've worked with a lot of the big brands in the mid-scale segment. So we're both owners and operators, and hopefully can share our perspective on things.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Michael Piro, the CEO of Indochina Capital and CEO of Wing Hotels. We've been developing real estate, particularly hospitality real estate in Vietnam for close to 25 years now. We were previously kind of best known for our developments in the luxury sector, like the Four Seasons Nam Hai, Six Senses, Condao. But more recently, we've kind of pivoted, trying to kind of take advantage of the kind of Gen Z opportunity that Rohit was talking about. And we launched our own brand, Wink Hotels, where we are both owner and operator. So that is definitely positioned as a mid-tier brand. And so I'm hoping I can share a little bit about what we've learned now with 5 hotels, 1,300 rooms in operation. And yeah, hope we can all learn something today. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tu. Currently, I'm working with Sovico Group. We have around 12 hotels, resort, and service apartment across Vietnam. And I've been working with Sun Group, Nova Group, and Vin Group. And I think I've been working with operator. We have our own brand as well. In Sovico Group, we have Furamai Da Nang for property in Nha Trang. We work with IAG as well for holiday in Ho Chi Minh City and other couple of hotels across Vietnam. So for us, I am very familiar with mid-scale property. So I do believe that with my expertise and experience, I can share some of my insight with the audience today. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to be with you today. My name is Jenny Milos, and I am the category brand leader for the Focus Service and All Suites brand across Asia Pacific for Hilton Worldwide. Hilton Worldwide is a leader in Focus Service. With our brands globally, we have 7,200 hotels, 3/4 of which are in this Focus Service or mid-market space. We have 800 total hotels in the APAC region. Over half of those are in this mid-market Focus Service space. Predominantly right now, mainly in the China region. However, we're just getting started outside of China in all of the APAC X regions or sub-regions, if you will. I have been in the industry for, I'm gonna go with enough time. I won't share the details there. Started in operations, worked my way up, and in this current role, which we call brand management, it's looking after and defining what the brands are and how they show up for our guests. From how they look, feel, what the experience is, what our brand standards are, and making sure that we have strong value propositions for both our owners and our guests. And really, the making sure, and one of the reasons that I'm super excited about this category and specifically, and Rohit still shared my word here, is this is a category that democratized the space for both owners from an ownership perspective and for guests when it comes to traveling. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody. So if you were here for my opening, you know that I'm always very positive into the country, but it's kind of my job to be. So I would like first a round from owners here on the reality of Vietnam hospitality market today and what they expect next year. We need to be real, we need to be optimistic, but also looking at the other side. So please, Chris, and touch on the different location if you like. You guys have hotel everywhere. Where is the Vietnam today in terms of market?
Yeah, some of the I'll start with the performance, the stats that were presented earlier. Clearly, there's been a very strong recovery. For us, been very fortunate. And some of our assets were 30 to 50% above COVID levels. On a more average basis, we're certainly ahead of that. That's been positive. And visitor arrivals, clearly now we're back to the number mentioned. But looking ahead, really, right, that's what it's mostly about. It feels very promising as a destination. I'm sure we'll get into it more here. Seems the field is wide open in terms of brand opportunities and growth. But it continues to be challenging, I think, as Michael can attest to. I think as an owner and developer, it may be one of the most challenging times right now if you combine getting government approvals and licensing, the relative cost and development costs of everything. So it's definitely challenging to build new products, but the overall tourism picture, at least from where I stand, I think is very, very positive.
So more difficult into the development. Wait, I haven't finished with you, Christian. Don't get around so easily. more difficult into the development, but the operation is doing better. All the area or some area they still needs improvement, and you may still see few years to touch a positive result. If you look at the whole Vietnam,
Sorry, what do you mean? Sorry.
which property is doing better and which one you would like to see bit more revenue?
Yeah, I mean, I can only really, yes, we have representation from all the way from here, all the way Cam Ranh, Da Nang, up to Hanoi. Again, we've been very fortunate. Most of our properties are doing quite well. So it's hard to disclaim or to distinguish between the different markets. I do feel like it really comes down to the product that you own or manage. Because we have seen, let's say you talked about supply before, and I've been hearing, one of our best performing assets is our Fusion resort in Cam Ranh, right? And when I talk to investors, other stakeholders, I say that Cam Ranh is an oversupplied market, but really not all supply is created equal. I think if you don't have product distinction and you don't have the location, the benefits, then yeah, you probably might struggle in the ocean of new supply. But we've been able to carve out a particular place. So listen, there's going to be supply considerations. I think access is key. Clearly, we've seen what I don't like about Cam Ranh is while 70-80% of our business comes from Korea, 70-80% of our business comes from one country, and Cam Ranh can't get flights from Hong Kong, can't get flights from Bangkok, Singapore, and so forth. So I think as hoteliers, and whether you're owner, operator, or both, really understanding how that access is happening. Ho Tram is another big exposure for us, of course, but overall, our property there is doing fantastic. However, there are other threats like infrastructure. It makes it easier to bypass Ho Tram and go to other markets, right? So there's all these dynamics that are overall helping, but you do have to be quite careful, and I think pretty selective. As you pick your different projects.
Thank you. We'll come back later. Thank you. Please, Mike.
For us, I think in general, when I look at the market, I'd say 2024 was a year about occupancy. Looking forward to 2025, it'll be about rate. I think we were all kind of in a bit of a dogfight this year, underpricing our products to win market share from each other, even though kind of as we've seen demand picking up. So I look forward to next year. I hope we'll start to see a bit more rate growth and the margins improve. I think another thing that we saw was we all learned how to work very lean during COVID, and we're getting lazy again, and we're letting all of it creep back up. As we're seeing demand come back up, we're losing sight of that tightness that we learned during COVID, that austerity. I think if we held on to a lot of the lessons that we learned how to operate on a very lean basis during COVID, our margins would be a lot better than what we saw up there. So I think that's something that I really try to keep in mind. I'm like, everyone's like, well, occupancy, the market's getting better, so let's keep hiring. Why? We proved that we could run the hotels with less people during COVID and still deliver great service because we had no choice. And now just because everyone's getting a bit excited seeing things improve, everyone's like, well, let's just start hiring, let's keep spending. So I think taking those lessons we learned from COVID and trying to hold on to them as long as we can will help improve the margin. I think another big trend that we'll see going into this year, there's still not a lot of foreign capital flowing into hospitality in Vietnam. Because I do wear another hat as an M&A advisor, and we, typically hotels was a big part of our business. There's not a lot of orders for people who want to buy or invest in hotels this year. Next year, I think that's going to change. And as Chris mentioned, it is very difficult to get approvals. So I think we're going to see a lot of refurbishments, people buying existing unbranded hotels and then looking to reposition them, putting in some CapEx, bringing in a new brand, and then trying to add value that way. I see a lot of the existing supply getting converted within the value chain, opposed to people doing grassroots, greenfield development. So I think those are kind of some of the bigger trends that I see looking forward to 2025 and beyond.
Will you do a wing conversion? Will it be possible to still deliver the brand but take something that is existing?
No, for us, we're kind of ruthlessly committed to standardization with our brand. And, I mean, it is possible that we could find something where the engineering and everything just lines up perfectly, but it's highly unlikely, I think, for us. We are still those people that really enjoy the pain of going through the Vietnamese approval process, and we'll continue to do that.
How many hotels do you have open?
We have 5 open and 2 more under construction right now in Hai Phong, which will open first quarter next year, and then Hanoi, which will open in the middle of 2026, bringing us to 2,000 keys.
Thank you, thank you. We'll come back later. Two, let us know. Do you need I switch the camera off? You tell us the truth about the market, or? It's okay, it's okay.
No, actually, my colleague here, Mr. Richard, can share a lot of insight for real estate market, because at the moment we see that not a lot of new projects to be built, but we see a lot of M&A coming, right? Many owners, they wish to sell the projects because expiration of the land owned coming to an end. And it's very difficult to find, to seek for legal approval to extend due to the new policy from the government. So M&A is very active at the moment. But if we talk about tourism industry, like Mauro mentioned earlier, we see that we're coming back to 2019. We see very good sign, positive sign. Or maybe because our hotel is quite different. So we have like Furama in Da Nang doing very well. We got like Ariana Convention Center can accommodate up to 2,000 guests. And that helps a lot. So instead of running purely focused on hotel business, we target a lot of international customers coming for big group, big meeting. We did host Asian Film Festival last week. Is that last week? Last week, and it was very successful, and it will become like annual kind of thing. So some of our hotel, we're looking into connecting with international MICE organization to bring in the business. And I think instead of relying on usual normal traffic or tourism coming to the area, so we try to work with the government to build more destination marketing, work with the tourism association to build more activity, get involved into the whole province activity to drive more guests and more tourists coming to the hotel. So Furama in Da Nang is not in competition in the price war that happening in the mid-scale product, because our positioning has been established for quite some time, and we find our own way to get out of the situation. However, Nha Trang or Cam Ranh, like you mentioned earlier, is a bit different. Especially Nha Trang is very competitive, at like 20,000 key inventory in the market. And it's like a war. So at the moment, we as Vietjet, we also have the charter flight coming to Cam Ranh, to Nha Trang. Our Annam Mandara had open for like 1 year, but doing very well. We see like a lot of Korean tourists coming in. However, we also see start increasing of Chinese, mix of Chinese, Kazakhstan, Russian guests start coming back to the market as well, which we didn't see last year. So this is very good sign for Nha Trang, because those can be the feeling for the occupancy base. But Nha Trang is still a bit struggle. For the rest, I think Ho Chi Minh City, our hotel is a bit different. It's like airport hotel, so most of the customer coming from there, so there's not a lot of things to say.
For the few people in the room that they don't know which hotel is that?
It's Holiday Inn, it's very close to the airport, so we get a lot, like most of the air crew come and stay in Holiday Inn, and it helps a lot with the occupancy and also with the ADR. Because on the other hand, we also work with the international MICE association to drive more business in terms of MICE and big group coming to the property. It's very nice property, 250 rooms. But hosts a lot of wedding and a lot of like local event in the
Did you get married there?
I hope so. Maybe different. Luxury.
Thank you, dudes. So Jenny, I'm going not to ask you a question about Vietnam unless you've called all your GM here and got fully updated, but I don't expect you that. I'm going to move it back into talking about the focus service hotel. Again, we had a few discussions, people have a bit of a feeling what it is. But if you have to sell me, let's say I'm a developer owner, and I have money to build even a full type of hotel. What is the key point selling? How will you sell the focus service hotel?
Great question. So focus service hotels really zero in on delivering the table stakes, the most used, most appreciated elements of the hotel experience delivered in a super consistent way. And so when we think about what that would be, right, it is high quality, consistency, every hotel, every location, every guest, every time. And so when we think about our Hilton Garden Inn brand, our Hampton brand, that's what guests know those brands for. High level of standardization, hard brands, wide appeal. Then it's going to come down to the service level, so friendly service. But it's more than that. It's an approachable, more casual approach to service, which really is counter to what you might experience at our full service or our luxury brands, where that's going to be an always-on, multi-touch, very proactive level of service. So it's not that service doesn't exist, but it exists and it's very attentive when guests need it. You have to remember the guest in focus service are very much going to be more about choice and control and more about self-service. Then you are going to get into really what is the core of any hotel stay, regardless of brand. And that's a very restful night's sleep, and it is being able to be recharged and regenerated for the next day. So having an exceptional sleep and shower experience and having convenient F&B. And so that's going to vary. So if you look at those four variables, depending on the brand for us and actually all of our competitors, you're going to either scale up or scale down those items, and then you're going to wrap that all with style and soul. Because today's consumers, it's not okay for focus service to just be about table stakes. Today's consumers, whether they're Gen Z, whether they're millennials, whether they're, maybe some of us, whatever generation some of us in the room might be, you're looking for something that is a little bit more designed forward. Not getting into the lifestyle space, because lifestyle is about being more experiential and actually starting to make a guest a little bit uncomfortable because you're starting to test and push them into boundaries that they haven't been before. Focus service is also very much about comfort. So if we understand that that's what the focus service experience is about, then the reason why focus service is so compelling for owners is generally a few things. One, it's about the returns. And so while we can't make any promises on returns, especially in a franchise environment, focus service is a super simple business model. And Chris and Maria mentioned it earlier. So it's a 90% rooms business. And Bo walked us through in hot stats, so you could see what the profitability is on the room side of the business. So you've got 90% of your revenue coming from the rooms business, which is driving 80% revenue, give or take. Our GOP margins, we like to be north of 40%. And at Hilton, within our focus service brands, and again, I'm sure a lot of competitors are doing the same thing, we are super meticulous about the way that we design our brands, blending both art and a lot of science. So we are going to research the brands, we're going to research the market, so we no longer, which we may have done a decade ago, lift and shift the brands from, let's say, North America, which is where they were born, and bring them into the market. So we do local research, we make sure the brands are resonating with domestic consumers, and then we go through a high level of standardization, because again, these brands are all about scale. Scale for you, scale for us. And making sure that that guest experience can be delivered so consistently takes a lot of effort. And so making sure we have prototypes and design packages that work for our guests, that have local procurement programs so it's easy for you to sign quickly, to open quickly, to generate cash flow quickly. All of those things are built into our model. And so to us, that is really the key. If I give you kind of a high level overview, that's kind of where I would end it.
Excellent. Take me like if I'm a baby. Let's say a very simple question. Which facility would you not want it, and which one are still needed?
Yeah, great question. So usually it's going to be, if I compare it with other categories, which we have all of them and we love them all equally at Hilton, it's going to be fewer smaller rooms, fewer smaller meeting spaces, and in some of our brands, none of them, and then fewer smaller F&B outlets. And in some of our brands, only breakfast. So again, you're gonna have a great night's sleep, you're gonna meet a fantastic team members that are gonna deliver service when you need it, and you're gonna have the sustenance that you would need.
So if I want a swimming pool, would you guys say no, or would you recommend me not to have it? What's the, because we've been working on a few of the projects, and usually owners tend to say, okay, how about this more? How about this? And then you just cross it the level of focus service.
Such a great question too, right? Because this is actually where you start to break the focus service model and where you start to break the profitability of these great brands. So our facilities only require a gym, because one of the key elements that guests tell us is in these target segment discussions that we have is that they want to maintain their daily life on the road, whereas some of our other brands are about escapism. This is not at all about escapism. And so being able to continue to work out when they're traveling is important. So a gym is required at all of our brands. Pool's completely optional. Now, Vietnam has a lot of destination markets, and so should destination markets have a pool? Probably. And can focus service hotels have a pool? Absolutely. If you're in the middle of city center of Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi, should you have a pool? Probably absolutely not. And we would like to tell you not to have it.
Last quick question before Michael jump in, and you are the second one taking all of this. So hold the moment when I'm asking you, would you have resort focus service hotels, so by the beach?
We will have focus service hotels in destination markets. We may not have the A+++ location, which is where you may put a full service or a luxury brand, but a middle class consumer who's looking for a quality and affordable stay with a friendly experience, a reliable experience, something that they know they can count on, they are looking still to go to that destination that the same luxury guest is. And so will we be in those locations? We absolutely will. Is the location going to be slightly different? Probably.
Michael, please illustrate
I was
us.
just going to add, I think she made a really good point, because just in our experience, having rolled out these brands now, we are in locations like Da Nang and Tuy Hoa, these destination kind of resort locations, and that is where we were sitting there on the fence and we're like, nah, go put the pool in, People are coming to these locations, they're going to want a pool. Saigon, there's no pool, and she's absolutely right. We did not need the pool, but something that we did have to convert some of our co-working space to meeting space, because the sales team kept saying, Michael, I can't fill your hotel unless you give me a meeting space. We're losing so much business because, a lot of the big corporate groups were saying, no meeting space, no booking. Even with Gem Center across the street and other facilities nearby, it wasn't enough. So that was something that we learned to drive the top line. We've really needed to add a little bit. We don't have ballrooms or anything, but adding in decent amount of meeting space has really paid dividends in our business model. So those are just two insights I wanted to share as a follow-up.
Would you define yourself as focus service, or would you look into lifestyle? What, if you need to define Wing, what it will be, and what make the difference into anything else?
Yeah, I think we are select service or focus service where it meets kind of lifestyle. We're extremely design driven. As far as I know, we're the only LEED Gold certified hotel chain in Vietnam. We're the only hotel chain in Vietnam that offers 24-hour stays. So if you check in at 3 p.m., you check out the next day at 3 p.m. We're known for throwing pretty good parties from time to time. Our bar is open 24 hours a day. Our music is curated. So I think we're kind of pushing the envelope of that where kind of lifestyle meets select service, and that's what's kind of making it an interesting project.
Thank you. Chris, will you guys enter that segment? You already have some of the brand within that segment. Are you expanding more? What's your view on that focus service segment?
Yeah, so we have went through a journey of this several years ago. It was one of the first projects that I had the chance to lead, and that was when we went around the industrial parks in Vietnam, which there's obviously a lot of them. We saw there was a big opportunity to deliver quality accommodation, international level, and we created our own brand. We got the land sites, we put the capital together, and today we have 2 open. Both are in Bin Yung. So it's definitely a space that we've have looked at and executed upon. I would say our brand is a bit more mid-scale, and one of the things we did was because we also saw the customer staying longer, because these are consultants coming from abroad and so forth, we blended a traditional hotel room with service apartment units as well. So created a bit of a hybrid of hotel, mid-scale, but also long-term stay, which has worked out pretty well for us. We've had a challenge because I think part of it is when you have come from a resort with a wellness-inspired brand as Fusion, is to have those people think in a box of mid-scale and select service. It's hard because, I mean, believe it or not, and it's a real anecdote, I think one of the first versions of our brand concept had yoga, like a workout studio in every room. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, our target customer is a 38-year-old Asian guy from China or Indonesia. I mean, he's an engineer. If anything, build a balcony so he can smoke. Now he's not going to do yoga. So we went through all of those. We thought about, I love Hilton Garden Inn. I come from the U.S. originally, and you know, thought about, hey, rather than building it, why don't we just buy it? And I would be lying if we didn't get the brand, the profile sheets of some of the big brands and try to emulate and copy. But I guess my point is all the things that being talked about, scope creep, and then for us culturally, just how to actually make that work. Lastly, in terms of the opportunity, I mean, I think for me, when you look, whether it's the United States as an example or in Asia, I think if you track a country's economic overall growth, in terms of our space, I think one of the best barometers is actually mid-scale hotels, because that shows the depth of the economy. You're going to have the luxury destinations, you'll have the mom and pops, but that kind of depth and sophistication of the mid-market, mid-scale, focused, et cetera, I think is a real interesting correlation compared to Thailand and Indonesia. I mean, quality mid-scale hotels, whether it's a Hilton Garden Inn or Wink or Hive like our brand and others, I think it's just a drop in the bucket at the moment. So that's really exciting, right?
I would add that it's still a little bit misunderstood as well, and that's why the margins are lower, much lower than what I would expect, is because there's still a huge price disparity between luxury and this mid-scale product, because it's still not particularly well understood. It's still viewed as economy. And I think as an industry, we need to do a better job of kind of elevating it so we start to close the gap a little bit, because the margins shouldn't be where they are. Sorry?
What margin were you expecting?
I was expecting 40 plus. I mean, that's at least what I was signing up for when I got into this and spent a ton of money building out this brand. You know, but to see where we're, you know, and we're not too far off from what was being shown up here for Vietnam in the GoStats presentation, or HoStats presentation, you know, in the 38 to 39% range. So I think, and it is rate driven. I don't think it's cost driven. I think it's rate driven, where we're always in that dog-eat-dog fight for the lowest rates. I think, you know, that this sector has a lot of room to grow in that sense.
Dog eat dog is absolutely right. I mean, it takes a certain amount of people to run these things, right? So you're fighting there. But I think Vietnam still, what the other thing is happening is that on the luxury to upper upscale, it's still a cheap destination. I mean, the rates across different destinations is still cheap, and that just trickles down, making the economics of mid-scale, while it's much cheaper to build, much harder to actually get the return that you expect. You have to be in that, I put my we're hoping 50 to 55% GOP margin. But you got to be punching at, in this rate structure, I mean, this in cost environment, at least 70 consistently to $100. That's hard to get in this market right now, because you can stay at a lot of five-star hotels for a fraction of what the normal rate would be.
Jenny, you want to?
I was just going to add, so at scale, our Hampton brand in China, so we'll be close to having 400 of those in August, is hitting over 50. And so that is exactly kind of where we would expect to be long term, and where we think broadly Asia should be, possibly with a couple of challenging markets that are high cost to build, high cost, labor cost, et cetera.
And two, what's your best margin out of your portfolio? Which hotel are you so proud of controlling cost and getting the revenue there?
Before I start with that, I think I would like to share some of my insight about the mid-scale or service-focused hotel product. Because as an owner, right, there's many factors beside the operation expense. So we care about also the land, like rent fee, rent for the land. If the land in expensive location, like in traffic, like in Ho Chi Minh City or in Hanoi, the rental fee that we have to pay, the tax we have to pay is like super high. So it's impossible for us to sell a focused service hotel with a very high rate, and it's very, very low in terms of return on investment. So it depends on a lot of factors, like what will be the land fee, land rental fee, what will be the investment cost, what will be the projection of financial analysis for the next probably 10 years in order for the owner to finally decide whether or what kind of product we're going to build. It also involved with the whole complex development as well, because most of the hotel development in Vietnam involve the real estate as a complex development together. So they use the brand in order to support with the real estate sales. So if you only purely talk about operation, it would be very easy. However, when it comes to the whole kind of investment cost, the land rental fee, everything that comes together, there will be a lot of factors to be taken in with a very detailed financial analysis before the owner decide to build it in their location. And for us, actually, we don't really plan to have any more like focus service, but we plan to rebrand on some of our property. And you mentioned about one of the properties that doing very well. We have like Furama in Da Nang, as I mentioned earlier, because the properties stay there for a very long time. We welcome international world leader like Trump, Putin, all of them has been staying in Furama Da Nang, and the positioning has been established. So it's not like mid-scale, it's like upscale. It's not luxury yet because the benchmark of the ADR and the product as well. But I do believe one thing about, we're talking about sustainability. If we build a product, because hotel business is not a short-term business, you're not going to get profits in like 1 or 2 years. It would take you like, for low investment cost, maybe 5-6 years. For the higher investment cost, maybe take 10 to 20 years. So hotel business, if player like owner willing to play long term, then that will be suitable business. And there should be very clear positioning or strategy for hotel in that complex of development, how it going to be. Because in the end, after like all depreciation, all those investment costs that depreciate, then the profit will be the one that will stay in the longer run.
Thank you. Chris, you have to add something. I saw you ready.
Yeah, I mean, just to I think try to help. I mean, to answer your question around the profitability and so forth. So we own the Metropole Hotel, which is in Hanoi, which I think everybody would know, and we have 3 to 4 star hotels. Just between us, the Metropole's GOP is around 55%, right? It's the highest rated hotel, or one of the highest rated hotels amongst the Capella there and the Park Hyatt here, I would think. Our mid-scale hotels, and I'm mixing a couple of the brands, but we, depending on the stabilization level, is still around 10-20%. So it's not even comparable, of course. Right now, we need to get better on the select service or on the mid-scale side. But again, getting back to the key point, to drive that rate and have that value proposition, it's still very hard. And that's the only way you're going to get that margin profitability.
Thank you. Before I go, so we got 5 minutes left because some people are already texting me that they're having a party upstairs. They are already at my HoSkar there and I'm missing the party. But we'll still give 5 minutes for a few questions, especially from the audience. If anybody wants to have a question, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to ask one more round question. But Jenny, I saw you want to add something.
I was just going to add, part of the science part of our brand building is pretty detailed feasibility analyses by country, by sub-region, so that we can really understand cost to build, cost to operate, and then really get into what is payback period or IRR on the focus service brands, because again, it's a super sensitive model, as everybody here has mentioned, and so we're taking into consideration rent, debt service, whatever that might be, to make sure that when we're putting together the product on the front end, when we're loading brand standards, when we're loading brand programming, that we are trying to be as sensitive to where the market is today, but also taking into consideration, right, consumer preferences and then future trends. So it is this blend of that art and science that goes into it.
Thank you. So I'm going to finish the whole thing by asking a question that we started today about brands and operator. Now, as the majority of the people here know, the Intercontinental Hotel in Saigon will change flag to JW Marriott in about 2 months. So Intercon is gone, it will be a JW Marriott. I hope it's public already, otherwise we need to switch on the car. So let me ask, let's start maybe with two, because you probably signed more HMA in your career than anybody else. What's the approach with brand? Do we need them? Do we need to push them to the limit? How we use brand and operator when it comes with investment?
I think first, there are two things about the operator when we bring in or work with the operator. The very first thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, it should support the real estate as all other investor. Usually, the hotel will be the first one to be built. For example, if it's not in Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi, in some location, that's they're not existing traffic or tourists yet, the hotel, we would like to bring in the brand in order to drive the traffic to the area. And you know, when there's traffic to the area, when people know about the area, when it becomes a destination, then the land price starts to increase, and then all the product or real estate that we build in the future will be increased with additional value as well. That's why when the real estate or investor, they decide to invest in one more like suburb or outskirt or like different remote area, always entertainment, golf course or hotel come first. That's a normal practice in Vietnam. The second thing is that I personally have run several hotels unbranded. And at the moment, Sovico, we also have the property unbranded as well. However, we realize, I personally know that without the support, without the force, like the marketing, sales and marketing support internationally, like with the group, big, like the dedicated team, international wise to do it, the individual hotel or independent hotel will be very, very difficult for them to actually compete in this very competitive market in consideration of increasing inventory of all like economy or mid-scale hotel. So bring in a brand would help investor to utilize their global sales and marketing, their global distribution system to yield revenue and occupancy and even the ADR for the owner property.
Thank you too. Chris, are you pro-brand or not? And then Michael.
Complicated question. I know that, I don't know if Chris will lock me in here and beat me up, but
you got 2 minutes left for that.
It's a complicated question. I think definitely, listen, brands can offer a lot of value for sales and marketing, in particular, the global recognition. There's so many other factors as well, of course, location and so forth. But frankly, I think we've all been there. A lot of times you're very disappointed with what you're actually delivered because you're one of 20 owners in the city, or the brands. How many brands you guys have now? No, it's a real question because nobody can tell. There's too many of them. Accor at 39 now. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. We can't even distinguish what a brand is. Now you're doing the soft alliances. So you need I think generally speaking, you need a brand. You need a brand, but do you sometimes get all of the value out of the fees you're paying? Are you really treated differently? And then the cannibalization, there's a lot of considerations.
You need to manage the manager.
And then there's other things like, again, this is a whole topic. They're always restructuring and shifting. I mean, the regional guy goes to Middle East, and they got a new guy, this guy. Listen, again, it's a whole different, it's a topic onto itself.
Don't worry,
but-
Chris
but-
here
but-
is for the long term. Yeah?
I'm definitely not getting
Promise me it's not-
champagne. All I care, I hope
Okay.
I get some water.
Michael, your final closing opinion on brands or no brands. You are guys building a Mandarin Oriental, so you definitely see the value of a brand there, but you also create your own brand. A final one on brand or no brand.
I'm converted. I think they do. I'm very happy with what we've been able to do on our own, but having gone through it now, and you see what they can do by bringing that global distribution, bringing the loyalty program, bringing all that, like, don't be naive going into owning your own brand. It's a lot of work, and they can take away a lot of the pain immediately. But having been the owner of hotels that have been managed by other operators, I can also attest to the fact, like, you only get out of it what you put into it. If you are timid and you don't have a professional asset management team to be pushing the operator, you're leaving money on the table. If you have the right team behind it and you understand the business well enough to get the most out of them, it can be a great relationship. So I think, I think if you're looking at building a hotel, I would very seriously consider bringing in an international operator.
Thank you, Chris. So, Jenny, I don't even ask you brand or no brand because it's kind of a conflict of interest even said, but tell us in 30 seconds, what is the benefit of the brand itself?
Plugging into a fully optimized system, so whether the end-to-end, so whether that is, at least on the focus service side, prototypes, design, distribution system, brand stand, the entire thing is done for you. So we have done all of the heavy lifting. You buy it, you build it, you operate it. And then multiple models. So whether you want to be the operator or you want us to be the operator or a different company, right, to be the operator.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And I don't want to hold you anymore, but I just need your attention a little bit. So you know how HoSkar works. HoSkar, I bring you a lot of good people around. That's the fun things. But the drinks is on you. Only today, Hilton will be happy to have one round of drinks for all of here. And then it's outside. So grab your champagne, and I'll see you in level 39 today.